Archaeologists have made strange discoveries that force them to scratch their heads for years without answers. How does a maiden's body stay intact for hundreds of years? And if an 86-ton stone is moved up the hills without a sophisticated machine, who performed the magic? In this video, we'll delve into the most spine-chilling archaeological finds that have stumped scientists. Get ready to uncover the secrets of the past. Let's start with the mummies of Guanajuato. Guanajuato, Mexico has been an UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1988, thanks to its age-long silver mining and Spanish architecture history. It also reminds the world of the Mexican Revolution. The city boasts narrow streets, Baroque churches, and candy-colored houses, but none compares to an underground museum housing hundreds of mummies. A visit to this bizarre site reveals leathery-skinned infants, slack-jawed men, and other corpses that have been a wonder to tourists for years. These mummies were neither preserved with embalming nor bandages, but stayed intact for hundreds of years. Visitors wonder why this beautiful city displays such macabre human remains. If we're honest, they need money from tourists. With a small fee in hand, you're allowed into the museum. However, remember to buy cinnamon sugar candy at the entrance. There's yet another site you should visit if you're unsatisfied with these mummies. The Moai of Easter Island. The Moai statues on Easter Island are giant megaliths built between 1400 to 1650 AD by Rapa Nui natives. There are about 1,000 of them on the island, with the heaviest measuring 86 tons and 10 meters tall. Researchers say 95% of the Moai were carved from the volcano Rano Raraku. They speculate that the location for the carvings was chosen since it had lots of tuffs. Tuff is compressed volcanic ash that makes it easy to mold. Locals may have been short of metal and used this material instead. These statues were built to honor fallen heroes and placed on a rectangular stone platform. One of the biggest mysteries about these stones is how ancient tribes transported these heavy statues kilometers across the hilly terrain. All transportation theories explored have proved to be unsuccessful. It is one of those secrets ancient people took to their graves. With the Chapel of Bones, we have a few answers. The Chapel of Bones. If you've been looking for the perfect opportunity to examine your life, you should visit the Chapel of Bones. This chapel in Évora, Portugal was constructed by Franciscan monks in the 16th century. At the time, the 43 cemeteries in Évora took up valuable land. Rather than dispose of the bodies buried there, the monks built a chapel to relocate them. They thought that displaying the bodies was more honorable and allowed visitors to meditate on the transience of life and the presence of death. So, you see a bold message at the entrance saying, "We bones are here, waiting for yours." And guess what? There are 5,000 corpses in this chapel. Among these mummies are the bones of 3 Franciscan monks believed to be the founders of the church. If the presence of corpses easily spooks you, this is not the place to be. The next entry is home to some of the greatest persons on earth. The Valley of the Kings. It is no news that ancient Egyptians set the pace for modern civilization. They built never-seen-before monuments to hide their pharaohs. In the elaborate tombs were treasures and precious stones. This location was known as the Valley of the Kings and became a royal burial ground for pharaohs like Seti I, Ramses II, high priests, queens, and Egyptian elites in the 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties. Therefore, you can tell that it was a big deal. These reputable people deserved a quality afterlife, and the living ensured that. After some archaeologists found 62 tombs in the valley in 1922, many thought that was all. Trust treasure hunters, tomb robbers, and archaeologists to comb this valley for discoveries. So far, there's been no dull moment. As I speak, different groups are on the site, hoping to find the next big thing. Away from that, we head to Tikal, a city with too many mysteries. Mayan Pyramids of Tikal. Tikal is one of the most popular attractions in Guatemala. You hardly find anyone who visits the western part of Belize and doesn't stop briefly at this Mayan site. What's exciting about this place? The pyramid in this city is one of the tallest in the Mayan world. Scientists believe it was built to mark the reign of the 27th king of the Tikal dynasty, Yakin Chankawil. Some say his temple has been discovered underneath the pyramid, but this is speculation. This monument stands 64.6 meters tall, and archaeologists estimate that 190,000 cubic meters of construction material were utilized in the construction. You're curious to know how they achieve such a level of sophistication. Well, I could reveal that secret if you subscribe to this channel. Now that you've done that, we can proceed. The Curse of King Tut's Tomb. King Tut's curse is the world's most famous curse. Since some researchers found the king's tomb at the Valley of Kings, rumors exist that those who violated his resting place suffered a terrible curse. It is believed that they died mysteriously. While many doubted the theory, those involved only lived a short time after it was opened. George Edward was a British aristocrat and amateur Egyptologist. He's often referenced when issues like these are raised. After financing the exploration, he died 1 year later from a mosquito-related disease. Aside from George, many unexpected deaths didn't make it to the public. Do you think this curse is real or a mere coincidence? We now move on to a temple surrounded by serpent heads. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent. After the volcanic eruption of Mount Popocatépetl, residents fled the area to escape the ash. They traveled to the Valley of Mexico, where they settled. This area became known as Teotihuacan and started around 100 BC. It had over 200,000 residents who built impressive structures within their 200 years of inhabiting the land. One such structure is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. This temple is located at the south end of the Avenue of the Dead. After its construction, 200 warriors were sacrificed, followed by 260 feathered serpent heads, representatives of Quetzalcoatl, the god of life and fertility. Each of the heads represents the 260 days of the divinatory calendar. Ancient people painted the pyramid and decorated it with seashells. Thanks to rain and groundwater, the structure is not the same. Tourist visitations have also accelerated deterioration. If you need to visit a historical site with less environmental damage, plan a trip to see the Ice Maiden. The Ice Maiden. In 1993, Natalia Polozmak, a Russian archaeologist, and her team found an ancient tomb at the Akak Plateau. The contents were shielded in ice, so they melted to see what was in there. What followed next amazed them. They discovered 6 horses in full harnesses buried near a wooden coffin. Inside the coffin was the body of a young woman. She was well preserved that the tattoos on her skin were clearly seen. They transported her body to the lab for investigation. They revealed that she was the Siberian Ice Maiden, a guardian against the evil powers. She was young, tall, and wore a hat. Her coffin was large enough to accommodate her headdress and wool skirt. The maiden belonged to the Pazyryk culture and lived in the mountains in the 6th to 3rd centuries BC. How was her body preserved so well? Aside from human interventions, nature also played a crucial role in preserving human bodies. Here's how. Bog Bodies. Around 60 AD, a man was taken to the marsh outside Cheshire, England to be killed. Except for his armband made of fur, he was naked. His killers hit him on his head and fractured his skull. As he was dragged to the marsh, his throat was cut. He was eventually kicked into the bog waters, where he stayed for over 2,000 years. Workers digging the area for peat found his body and were amazed at how intact it was. Similar bodies have been unearthed from marshes across northern Europe. Many show signs of mutilation, torture, trauma, and dismemberment. The reason for these brutal deaths remains a mystery to archaeologists to this day. Some say the deaths were an accident, while others suggest it may have been a punishment for a crime. If you have a better explanation, please let us know. The next entry leaves a subtle piece of advice to tourists. Don't go where you are not invited. The Aztec Sacrificial Temple, Templo Mayor. The opening ceremony of the 6th Great Temple of Tenochtitlan was held on December 19, 1487. Warriors dressed as eagles guarded the road to the pyramid as drummers entertained guests with incredible tunes. The ceremony took a different turn when prisoners of war were taken to the top of the steep step leading to the shrine. They were held down and sliced open by high priests wielding knives. With their hearts still beating, their mutilated bodies were raised to the gods amid the cheering crowd. Their lifeless bodies are then thrown down the stairs. The 4-day ceremony involves killing about 4,000 prisoners. No explanation justifies these ruthless killings. The next story demonstrates how often history repeats itself. The Black Death. Like the coronavirus pandemic, the Black Death ravaged Europe between 1347 and 1351. It is believed to be caused by infection with the bacterium Yersinia pestis. The plague originated in China and some parts of Asia. It ravaged Kipchak Khan Yaniberg's army while they invaded the Genoese trading port of Kaffa. Seeing the number of people it killed, he sent some infected corpses into the town to infect his enemies. This caused the plague to spread across Europe, resulting in thousands of deaths. Europe had not seen dark times until this plague. Like and subscribe to Magma Storm, and please stay tuned for the next video.